Hey y'all. Um, I thought we would dive into this article. As you can see, the headline right here. And this is basically a follow up. And, we might go ahead and just follow closely to this case because it's striking me as real intriguing thus far. I'd become acquainted with this particular case of Arabella Parker maybe 2 or 3 days ago. And I understand that that's been an ongoing situation for at least a couple of weeks, right? When this whole incident took place, in which a 3-year-old Arabella Parker was beaten pretty much in an unthinkable fashion, all right? And it's still in critical condition. I was actually looking it up because I wanted to see if there was any sort of improvement or any sort of progress with this little girl. I know she's been in um, the ICU for, I guess, weeks now. All right, so it's pretty interesting. I wanted to look it up, and so I typed in her name, and on Google, on Google to see what they gave me, and they didn't give me much as far as her condition. If I'm being honest, I don't know if I can go back to it. Google, see, I was looking for Arrow Parker. I typed it in, and I want to see, is there any from the past couple of days or something that says whether or not Arabella Parker is going to pull through, whether or not she's going to be changed forever, irrevocably. What are people seeing? What's going on with this little girl? And the problem is that nobody really brought it up, all right? And that could mean that there's grave news. Maybe it's not looking too good. I'm not real sure. I don't want to assume, but suffice it to say that nobody brought it up, really. Okay? But what they did bring up, and I caught it down here at the end, this is the article right here at the end that caught my eye. Said, police, man who collided with school bus, charged with striking grandmother. And, that's kind of I don't know. That headline, just on its face, is a little bit funny, all right? And it's definitely random. And it definitely is eye-catching, right? So that did catch my eye, and I noticed it was by Daily Item, who had been covering the Arabella Parker situation pretty dang closely. So I was like, I just typed in Arabella Parker. Who are they talking about? What's going on here? Whose grandmother are they talking about? So I looked into it. All right. I already read the article, and we're probably just going to go ahead and read through it because it's kind of short. All right. But this is a follow up, for all those out there, concerned about Arabella Parker. This is actually breaking news. Not only does it say breaking news, but the article itself is only like 2 hours old. I mean, it's breaking news. All right, so let's get into it. Police, man who collided with school bus, charged with striking grandmother of abuse victim. And who they're talking about, they didn't mention, is actually Arabella Parker. That's her grandmother. Now, before we go on, I'm just going to state, in case if y'all don't know, or just to summarize it, the mother of Arabella Parker. Her name is something or other. I forget what it is, but her last name is Del Camp. Right? That's her mother's last name is Del Camp. You'll notice Arabella Parker has a different last name. It's Parker. All right? Come to find out that that's her biological father's name. His last name is Parker. So that's how she got her name. All right? What I didn't mention in the first original broadcast of this situation is that, okay, Del Camp has a different name than her daughter, right? And as you can easily understand why. They had different last names. And then it came to my attention that actually Del Camp was on the Steve Wilkos show, which was taped only days before this whole incident blew up. Right? Now it's kind of, that in and of itself is kind of spectacular. I was like, I don't know if they got the episode, if they aired it already, or what's happened. I don't know where. I might look it up later. But, okay. During the episode of the Steve Wilkos show, apparently, according to the articles, Del Camp was confronted by her mother. All right? And, I'm really kind of bad with names, so I kind of like perused through it. And I noticed that was the point of the Steve Wilkos show, was that Del Camp's mom was confronting her. was having an intervention on her. And it has something to do with her abusive ways. And I would assume, as far as abusive ways go, that that would have something to do with her daughter, Miss Arabella Parker. Right? So it's tragic. I mean, leading up to the situation, there's obvious that there's a big problem happening here. All right? And actually, this article is about to get real wild. We're about to go through it. But what I forgot to mention was the lady in question who confronted her daughter on the Steve Wilkos show. That lady, her name is Bonnie Caylee. That's her last name. And for those who haven't caught it, I just got to let you know there's a pattern there. That is a reoccurring pattern. So, okay, you don't have the same name as your daughter, who she doesn't have the same name as her daughter. Do you see the pattern? See what it is? I caught it instantly. And I imagine that most people are going to become more acquainted with what it is I'm talking about. Generation after generation after generation of people, y'all don't even have the same last names. Why is that? Oh, I think we all know why it is. All right. Either that or we're becoming more and more acquainted with why that is. So when I first heard about it, I didn't know anybody, I knew nobody involved, right? So I saw that, okay, Bonnie Caylee, she took her daughter to the Steve Wilkos show in order to intervene on her for abusive ways. It's real interesting, but when I read that, I knew already pretty much instantaneously to not trust a Bonnie Caylee. All right, because if your daughter is the one wilding out and is totally abusive and you're trying to intervene on it, understand that you were the one who started this problem. All right, and it's kind of typical in the female sense, and I know a lot of females understand me when I say it. It's kind of typical for them to just shrug off some blame. All right. They want to point out other people and say, oh, no, you're guilty and stuff. Meanwhile, okay, if your daughter is wilding out the way she is, I wonder if it's because she didn't have her father at home. I wonder why that is. And I don't know y'all's whole situation. All I know is that y'all don't even have the same last names. All right. So there's a Bonnie Caylee out there, and whoever it is she got pregnant by in order to have her daughter, he ain't no longer in the situation. You see, there's a pattern there. There's a pattern there. So my deal is, I already knew if Del Camp, if she was so abusive to Parker, which she probably was, I got to be honest with you, she probably was just as abusive, if not more abusive, than her boyfriend. All right. Meanwhile, he's being charged with all sort of assault. Meanwhile, she's only being charged with like negligence or just letting it happen. Now, I bet you anything. I'll bet you everything that I love that lady Del Camp abused her daughter. All right. Left, right, and front and center, all day, abused her daughter. Didn't care nothing about her daughter. All right, and whether that be the drugs or whatever else, I mean, something made it to where she didn't care about her daughter. But here's what I knew: say if the grandmother were to get control of that little girl, it would be a little bit more of the same. Nothing would change up. Right. And that's something a lot of people wouldn't put together. They would just assume, oh, yeah, the grandmother, that's going to be what solves the problem. She's the one that started the problem. All right. She's the origins of the problem, the grandmother. Okay. So I knew that instantaneously. I didn't bring it up during the last video. But with that all being said, we're going to read through this small article. And trust me, it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it like heck. You're going to be glad that you stuck around. This is Sunbury. The grandmother of a 3-year-old girl severely beaten earlier this month, get this, was punched in the head Sunday morning. All right. And that would be today. All right. Today's Sunday. All right. So this is extremely breaking news. The grandmother of a 3-year-old girl severely beaten earlier this month was punched in the head Sunday morning by the man who police say collided with a school bus in September. September's last month, y'all. September's last month. Who are they talking about? They're talking about Nicholas Caylee. Nicholas Caylee, isn't that Isn't that the grandmother's last name? See, we're piecing it together. Nicholas Caylee, who's 35, was arrested Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. and jailed on charges of misdemeanor simple assault after Sunbury police were dispatched to Spruce Street for a report of a physical domestic incident, according to police. Nicholas Caylee, 35, he punched a grandmother in the head. Her last name is Caylee. Oh, what the heck does that mean? Is that her son? I mean, she's a grandmother. This Nicholas Caylee's 35, punched her in the head, right? Is that her son that punched her in the head? How many people have the last name Caylee? Okay, let's continue. Officer Brad Slack spoke with Bonnie Caylee, the maternal grandmother of Arabella Parker, the 3-year-old who is in critical condition after being beaten so badly that she needed part of her brain removed. All right, for those who are not familiar with this situation, yeah, part of her brain removed. She was beaten so badly and left on the floor basically to die. All right, but she didn't die. Wound up getting to the hospital. And Bonnie Caylee told officers that Nicholas Caylee, who is married to Bonnie Caylee, all right, if you didn't already get it, all right, and they're not going to say Bonnie Caylee's age for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know why they're doing that, but they did say, what's his name? Nicholas Caylee's age. He's 35. All right, how old is Bonnie Caylee? Why in the world would she be married to some 35-year-old? All right, and then kind of find out he's going to go ahead and punch her in the head after an argument. Slack said. All right, and let's go find out, because trust me, it gets a little bit more interesting. Bonnie Caylee had visible injuries in her right ear, Slack said. So I guess he punched her in the right ear. I don't know. I'm not one to punch people in the ears, but some people do, I guess. Nicholas Caylee told police that they were arguing over family issues, and trust me, they got a lot of family issues going. And that he didn't strike his wife, Slack said. Nicholas Caylee was taken into custody and sent to Northumberland County Jail, where he will await to be arraigned Monday, Slack said. And that's what I want to point out, that right there. If people have physical injuries in these domestic disputes, that's what I noticed. If there's physical injuries, one of y'all is going to jail, right? And it don't matter how they got the injuries. Nobody's going to prove anything. It's not about evidence. It's just to say if Bonnie Caylee's ear is all messed up on the right side, they're going to assume that Nicholas did it. And I don't know that Nicholas didn't do it. I bet you Nicholas did do it. But I'm just here to say, and evidence be damned. There's not going to be evidence about it. They're going to take one of y'all to jail if somebody else is physically messed up for any reason. So let's go ahead and read the rest. Last week, Shamokin District Judge John Jembick signed a search warrant that lists Nicholas Caylee as the man driving a rented van that, get this, smashed head-on into a school bus filled with children in front of Oakland Elementary School last month. What in the world? I mean, a whole host of questions comes up. Number one, how does that happen exactly? What leads up to this? A rented van? A rented one? Slamming headlong into a school bus filled with children. How does that happen? Right. Secondly, maybe even more importantly, how does that person just go walking around all free? Nobody stopped him or arrested him. They just, it makes you wonder. And this article will talk about it a little bit, but it's okay, why is he out walking around? Well, the article continues. It says, according to the warrant, state troopers discovered a large amount of copper wire and piping, which appeared to be burnt in the back of the van. Now, if you're asking yourself why that is, that he had all sort of copper wire, a lot of people already know, but just for those who don't, it would seem to me that perhaps he stole a bunch of copper wiring and piping. I mean, the guy might have had like access to a bunch of copper wiring that he owned previously for some odd reason, and piping. That might have been the case, and sometimes surely that is the case. But more often than not, you could probably guess that copper wiring was stolen. Probably. More than likely. And the reason it was burnt up is because, you get a lot more money for copper wiring and stuff like that when you take off the outside insulation of the copper wiring. Like if you have non-insulated wiring, you're going to get a lot more money for that. If you have copper wiring that has insulation around it, they're going to charge you for that. They're not going to give you so much money because they had to take off the insulation. So there's different ways in taking off the insulation when it comes to copper wiring. One of the most just stupid ways of doing it would be to burn it. All right. The reason it's stupid is because it'll just cause a nasty fire, like a disgusting fire full of black smoke and stuff. Like, yeah, you're not really gonna want to do that. There's physical ways of taking the insulation off, but that's neither here nor there. Anyways, I don't know why he had all that, but let's just go ahead and continue. During a custodial inventory search of the van following the crash, a bag containing suspected heroin, suspected methamphetamines, white wax bags, a measuring device, a hypodermic needle were discovered, according to the troopers. All right, so with that all being stated, if that's all correct and accurate, how much you want to bet all that wiring in the back was stolen? All right, you can figure it was stolen, and there's all sort of drugs in the back, according to y'all. And then he smashed in a head-on collision with a school bus full of children. And he's still walking the streets, y'all. I don't even know what to say about that. I don't know where I would start with that. So just to finish the article, Nicholas Caylee had to be extracted from the van by emergency personnel. It's not like he ran off. Everybody saw him there. Had to be extracted from the van, troopers said. And troopers interviewed Caylee in the back of an ambulance. And Caylee said that he was driving from Northumberland to a scrapyard in Reading, according to the warrant. Obviously, that's where you would take stolen copper wiring, to the scrapyard and get paid for it. So no one in the case has been charged with any crime. With any crimes. How is that? How's that? I mean, just to sum it up, a rented van full of what's likely stolen copper wiring and piping, full up of different kind of drugs. All right, and nobody's charged with anything. Smashed headlong into a school bus full of children. Nobody charged with anything. Not at all. But later on, he goes ahead and he punches his grandmother wife in the head, and he goes ahead and gets arrested, and that's probably for the best. But just to sum up this whole story, like we began earlier, like I said, I already knew instantaneously from the articles that if the grandmother were to get custody of this child, let's say, in order to get safety for the granddaughter who's Arabella Parker, don't you know that she wouldn't have been in any better of a situation at all? I mean, whatever situation is going on with the mother, with the grandmother, trust me, they're swimming in drugs. All right? It ain't no place for a child. And meanwhile, they're going to both play it off and perpetrate like they're not abusers themselves. Meanwhile, I pretty much see right through it. All right? Meanwhile, the mother in question, Del Camp, is still not being charged with abusing her child, which, I mean, 99% is probably exactly what happened for as long as we could tell. All right. That is just to say, as we finish up this video, that there's children out there, trust me, that a hotline is not going to help them. All right? That telling them, oh, speak out against bullies at school, speak out against this and that. There's some children out there who do not stand a chance, dude. Not a single chance. Unless there's an adult in and around the situation who could put an end to it, who can come in and rescue them like a damn superhero. These children, there's some of these children out here who do not stand a chance. I don't know what kind of guidance counselor you think is gonna change it up for them. I don't know what kind of hotline, 1-800 number you think that they can call in order to get away from this. No, hell no. Here's the thing: has she gotten taken away from her mother, she would have been put in foster care. Oh, you know what kind of risky gambit that is for a child to be put in foster care? Had she not been put in foster care, she would have been given to who? Her grandmother? Oh, her grandmother who's running around with this guy who's renting vans, smashing them into school buses, all full of drugs. Nobody gets arrested. And so now she's going to be in custody of her grandmother? You know what I'm saying? I just want to focus on the fact that some of these kids do not stand a chance. Some of them are sitting ducks and they can't do nothing. They can't do nothing to get out of it. They desperately need our help. Desperately. All right? And I don't mean, oh, let's go situate them in with a foster family somewhere and forget all about it. These orphans. No, what I'm saying is the whole system is messed up and it's geared against children anyways. All right, and they need our help desperately. They're just sitting there waiting for us to help them. And that's what they're doing. Anyways, it's October the 26th. The 27th, 2019.